What if I told you there's an animal on this planet that can think with its arms? Not just move them, actually process information, make decisions, and solve problems, using 8 limbs that operate almost like independent minds. This animal has around 500 million neurons in its body. That's a number comparable to what you'd find in the cerebral cortex of a dog, the part of the brain responsible for complex thought. But here's the part that makes scientists uneasy. Most of those neurons aren't inside its head. If you look at every intelligent animal we know, dogs, crows, dolphins, chimpanzees, even us, they all share the same basic blueprint: a central brain. Neurons packed tightly inside a skull, signals racing up and down a spinal cord, carrying information to and from the body. This architecture is so universal that we almost take it for granted. It's how intelligence should work. But the octopus didn't get that memo. Its nervous system is built in a way that challenges almost everything we assume about how a mind should be organized. Scientists call it one of Earth's strangest minds, and for good reason. No other animal we know of has taken the raw material of intelligence neurons and scattered them so thoroughly across its body. In almost every creature with a brain, the head is where the thinking happens, and the body is where the obeying happens. The octopus blurred that line so completely that researchers are still debating how to even describe it. To understand what's going on, let's break down the numbers. An octopus has roughly 500 million neurons in its body. Of those, only about 40 to 50 million sit inside the central brain. Another 120 to 180 million are in the optic lobes, the parts that process what the octopus sees. That leaves the rest somewhere around 300 million neurons distributed down its 8 arms. Think of it this way. Imagine you had 8 laptops, each with its own processor, and they were all connected to one desktop computer. The desktop gives broad instructions: go explore that area, but each laptop figures out on its own exactly how to move, what to grab, and whether something feels like food. That's roughly what an octopus arm does. Each arm contains clusters of neurons called ganglia, small bundles of processing power that act like local control centers. These ganglia process touch, taste, and movement locally without waiting for instructions from the brain. A single octopus arm has roughly 40 million neurons. That's more than twice what an entire frog has in its whole body. And all 8 arms connect back to the central brain through only about 30,000 nerve fibers. That's a remarkably thin data cable for the amount of processing happening out in the limbs. The brain doesn't micromanage. It issues general commands. The arms handle the details. So what can this strange architecture actually do? Quite a lot. As it turns out, in laboratories around the world, octopuses have repeatedly demonstrated problem-solving abilities that rival those of some vertebrates. They can open screw-top jars from the outside to reach food inside. Some have figured out how to open them from the inside, twisting the lid off while trapped inside the jar itself. They solve mazes. They learn to navigate complex routes to reach rewards, and they remember those routes for months. In one study, researchers presented octopuses with a puzzle that required them to pull or push a handle to get food. The octopuses didn't just learn the correct action. When researchers switched the rules, the octopuses adapted within minutes, showing a level of behavioral flexibility that scientists usually associate with mammals. There are also well-documented escape stories. Octopuses in aquariums have been observed unscrewing tank fixtures, squeezing through gaps barely wider than their beaks, and even boarding neighboring tanks to steal food before returning home. In one famous case, an octopus named Inky escaped from the National Aquarium of New Zealand through a small gap in its tank, crossed the floor, and disappeared into a drain pipe that led to the ocean. Some octopuses have also been observed using tools carrying coconut shells across the ocean floor and assembling them as shelters when needed. And in a particularly revealing study, octopuses were able to recognize individual human faces, behaving differently toward people who fed them versus people who bothered them. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. If you remove an octopus arm from its body, that arm keeps going. Not just twitching, actually behaving. It will reach out, explore its surroundings, and if it touches something that might be food, it grabs it. In experiments, severed arms have continued to move and respond to touch for up to an hour after being separated. In one study, a detached arm even tried to carry a piece of food toward a mouth that was no longer there. This isn't just a simple reflex, like your knee jerking when a doctor taps it. The arm is processing sensory information and generating motor responses on its own, using the neurons embedded in its own tissue. It doesn't need the brain to tell it what to do. Some researchers have even suggested that each arm may support its own form of awareness, a local, independent capacity to experience the world. This is why some people casually say an octopus has 9 brains. Scientifically, it has one central brain plus large neural clusters in each arm. But the distinction is more philosophical than practical. The arms don't just take orders, they think. Why did this happen? Why did the octopus build its intelligence so differently from every other intelligent animal we know? The answer starts with evolution, but not the kind that produced dog intelligence or human intelligence. For mammals and birds, scientists have long believed that social pressure drives brain growth. The social brain hypothesis suggests that managing relationships, reading group dynamics, and cooperating with others pushes species toward greater intelligence. Wolves hunt in packs, primates live in troops, dolphins form alliances. The more complex your social world, the bigger your brain needs to be. But octopuses are mostly solitary. They don't form groups. They don't cooperate. Many species are even cannibalistic, and yet they evolved one of the most sophisticated nervous systems on the planet. Recent research published in 2026 suggests that for cephalopods, habitat complexity, not sociality, was the driving force behind their intelligence. When their ancient ancestors lost their protective shells and sank to the ocean floor, they entered an environment full of new challenges. Hiding from predators, hunting unfamiliar prey, navigating complex terrain with no skeleton to give them structure. Intelligence didn't emerge from interacting with each other, it emerged from interacting with the world. That's why their nervous system is distributed across their body, because for an octopus, every part of the body is constantly encountering a different problem that needs solving right now. We keep looking for intelligence that looks like ours, centralized, contained, controlled from one place. But the octopus suggests that the universe has more imagination than we do. It built a mind that is, in a very real sense, not one mind at all, but a network of them, working together in a way we are only beginning to understand. Maybe that's the real lesson. Maybe intelligence doesn't have to look anything like ours to be extraordinary.